The cantina was quiet except for the hum of old machines and the soft clink of glasses. Maya Rodriguez sat at a corner table, watching the door. She had been waiting for 3 hours. The blue drink in front of her had gone warm, but she did not touch it. Her recording device lay hidden in her jacket pocket, ready to capture whatever came next. A shadow fell across her table. Maya looked up to see a tall figure standing beside her. The alien was massive, nearly 7 feet tall, with blue-green scales covering his arms and face. Scars ran across his neck and down his left arm like silver threads. His eyes were large and yellow like those of a cat, but they held a weight that spoke of too many battles. "You are the reporter," he said. His voice was deep and rough, like stones grinding together. "Maya Rodriguez," she said, standing to offer her hand. "You must be Zeftar." The alien looked at her hand for a moment before taking it carefully in his own. His grip was strong but gentle, as if he was afraid he might break her fingers. "I am," he said simply. They sat down across from each other. The cantina owner, a short human with graying hair, brought them fresh drinks without being asked. He knew better than to disturb customers who wanted privacy. Maya studied the alien warrior. Zeftar was older than she had expected. His scales had faded with age, and there were lines around his eyes that spoke of many years. She had read his military record before coming here. 32 years of service, 3 major wars, countless smaller battles. He was a legend among his people. "Thank you for agreeing to meet with me," Maya said. "I know you do not usually talk to reporters." Zeftar picked up his glass and drank slowly. "I do not talk to anyone about the wars," he said. "Not reporters, not other soldiers, not even my own family. Then why now? Why are you willing to talk to me?" The alien set down his glass and stared at the table. "Because people need to know," he said quietly. "The galaxy thinks it knows about humans. They think they understand what your people are like in battle. They are wrong." Maya felt her heart beat faster. This was what she had hoped for. For months she had been trying to find someone who would talk about human combat methods. Most aliens refused to discuss it. The few who did speak only gave her brief, nervous answers before changing the subject. "What do they get wrong?" she asked. Zeftar was quiet for a long time. He turned his glass slowly on the table, watching the liquid swirl inside. "Everything," he said finally. "They think humans are just another warrior race. They think you fight like the rest of us. They have no idea what you really are." "And what are we really?" The alien's yellow eyes met hers. There was something in them that made Maya uncomfortable. Not anger or hatred, but something deeper. Something that looked almost like fear. "That is what I am going to tell you," he said. "But first, you must understand something. When I am done talking, you will see humans differently. You will see your own people differently. Are you sure you want that?" Maya nodded. "I am sure." Zeftar drank again, longer this time. "I have fought in 3 wars," he said. "I have seen every major battle formation. I have watched the greatest warriors of a dozen species. Before I met humans, I thought I knew what war was." He paused, looking out the cantina window at the mining equipment moving slowly across the colony grounds. "My people, the Catherians, we have been soldiers for thousands of years. We have honor codes, rules, ways of fighting that go back to our ancestors. Most species do. War is terrible, but it has structure. It has meaning." "What kind of structure?" "You fight during the day, when everyone can see. You protect the weak. You do not attack medical stations or supply lines unless they carry weapons. You give the enemy time to surrender. You treat prisoners with respect. These are the rules that most species follow." Maya made notes on her tablet. "And humans do not follow these rules?" Zeftar made a sound that might have been laughter, but there was no humor in it. "Humans do not even know these rules exist," he said. "When I first met human soldiers, I thought they were just ignorant, new to galactic warfare. I thought we could teach them how to fight properly." "When was this?" "The Centauri border wars, 23 years ago. I was a young officer then, proud of my training and my tradition. The human military had just joined the Galactic Defense Force. They were assigned to work with my unit. The aliens' eyes grew distant. I remember the first time I saw them. They were smaller than most species, weaker looking. Their equipment was basic, old-fashioned. I thought they would be a burden, something we would have to protect. What changed your mind? The first battle, Zeftar said. We were defending a supply station on Rigel Prime. The enemy had us outnumbered 3-1. Standard tactics said we should hold our position and wait for reinforcements, or retreat and regroup. Instead, the human commander asked if we could create a distraction. Maya leaned forward. What kind of distraction? A fake retreat. Something to draw the enemy forward. I told him it was too dangerous. If we retreated, we would lose the high ground. We would be vulnerable, but he insisted. So we did it. The alien shook his head slowly. While we were retreating, the humans disappeared, just vanished. I thought they had run away. I was angry. I felt betrayed. Then the attack came. What attack? The enemy charged our position thinking we were weak and broken. They came in a great wave, thousands of them screaming their battle cries. And then the humans struck. Zeftar's voice grew quieter. They had not retreated. They had hidden. While we were drawing the enemy forward, they had moved behind enemy lines. They attacked from 6 different directions at once. They hit supply lines, communications, command posts. They turned the entire battlefield into chaos. That sounds like good tactics. It was brilliant tactics, the alien said. But it was not how war is supposed to work. The enemy was confused. They did not know how to respond. They had never seen anything like it. Neither had I. Maya watched as Zeftar stared into his drink. You sound like you disapproved. I did not know what to think, he said. We won the battle. Barely lost anyone. But it felt wrong. Like we had cheated somehow. The enemy surrendered, but they looked terrified, not defeated. Terrified. The cantina grew quieter as the evening wore on. Other customers left, but Maya and Zeftar remained at their table. The alien warrior seemed lost in his memories. That was just the beginning, he said finally. Over the next months, I learned that humans do not fight like anyone else. They do not think like anyone else. They approach war like it is a puzzle to be solved, not a sacred ritual to be honored. Is that so bad? Zeftar looked at her with those yellow eyes. That depends, he said, on whether you are fighting beside them or against them. Maya ordered another round of drinks. The cantina was almost empty now, with only a few miners sitting at the bar. The lighting had dimmed automatically as night fell over the colony. She could see Zeftar was struggling with his memories, his large hands gripping his glass tightly. Tell me about the humans you served with, Maya said gently. What were they like as people? The alien's expression softened slightly. That was the strange part, he said. Away from battle, they were like children. They laughed at small things. They shared pictures of their families. They worried about pets they had left at home. Colonel Jake Morrison carried a photo of his daughter in his helmet. She was maybe 8 years old with missing front teeth. Zeftar smiled, a rare expression on his scarred face. The humans would play games during rest periods. Card games, word games, things that made no sense to us. They would argue about which food was better or which music they missed most. They seemed so normal, so harmless. But that changed in combat? The smile faded. Everything changed in combat, he said. It was like watching them become different creatures entirely. Maya leaned forward. Can you give me a specific example? Zeftar was quiet for several minutes. He stared at the wall, his yellow eyes unfocused. When he spoke again, his voice was barely above a whisper. The Battle of Titan's Rest, he said. 6 months after our first encounter, we were trying to take back a mining facility from Vraxian forces. The facility was built into the side of a mountain with only one main entrance, very defensible. The Vraxians had been there for weeks, digging in, setting up weapons. The alien warrior paused to drink. Standard siege tactics would take months. We could surround them, cut off supplies, wait for them to surrender. But the humans had a different idea. What did they do? Captain Lisa Chang came to our planning meeting with a proposal that made no sense. She wanted to attack during the night cycle. Not at dawn, which is traditional, but in the middle of the night, when most species are naturally tired and slow. Zeftar shook his head. We told her it was impossible. Night fighting is too dangerous. Too many things can go wrong. You cannot see properly. You cannot coordinate properly. It goes against every rule of warfare. But she insisted. She did. More than insist. She showed us data. Studies of Vraxian sleep patterns. Maps of their guard rotations. Information about how their vision worked in darkness. She had been studying the enemy like a scientist studies insects. Maya made notes rapidly. What happened? We agreed to support her plan, but reluctantly. My commander thought the humans would learn from their mistake. We prepared medical teams and evacuation routes, expecting heavy casualties. The alien's voice grew distant again. The attack began at what humans call 3 in the morning. The Vraxians were expecting a dawn assault, so most of their forces were resting, but the humans did not just attack the main entrance. Where did they attack? Everywhere, Zeftar said. While we provided covering fire at the main gate, human soldiers appeared from directions that should have been impossible. They came through ventilation shafts. They climbed the mountain face in complete darkness. They used mining equipment to dig new tunnels. Maya looked up from her notes. That sounds incredibly dangerous. It was suicide, the alien said flatly. Any reasonable species would have lost half their forces, but the humans seemed to know exactly where every Vraxian soldier was positioned. They moved through the facility like they had built it themselves. How? Zeftar turned his glass slowly on the table. Later, I learned they had been sending tiny surveillance drones into the facility for weeks. Devices so small they looked like insects. They had mapped every room, every corridor, every guard post. They knew the facility better than the Vraxians who lived there. The alien's eyes met Maya's. But that was not the worst part. The worst part was what they did to the Vraxians during the attack. Maya felt a chill run down her spine. What do you mean? They used psychological warfare, Zeftar said. They would appear suddenly, attack a position, then disappear before reinforcements arrived. They would leave behind things to frighten the enemy. Strange sounds, shadows that moved wrong. They made the Vraxians think they were fighting ghosts. That sounds effective. It was terrifying, the alien corrected. I watched Vraxian soldiers, trained warriors who had fought in dozens of battles, break down and cry like children. They started shooting at shadows. They stopped trusting their own senses. Zeftar drank deeply before continuing. The humans had studied Vraxian psychology. They knew exactly what would frighten them most. They used the enemy's own instincts against them. Maya felt her mouth go dry. How long did the battle last? 4 hours, the alien said. A facility that should have taken months to capture fell in 4 hours. The Vraxians surrendered not because they were defeated, but because they were too scared to keep fighting. The cantina owner approached their table cautiously. We are closing soon, he said quietly. Maya looked at her watch. They had been talking for over 6 hours. Can we continue this tomorrow? Zeftar nodded. There is much more to tell. As they prepared to leave, Maya could not resist asking one more question. After that battle, how did the other alien forces react to the humans? The Catherian warrior stopped at the door. We were grateful, he said. We had won with minimal casualties. The humans had proven their tactics worked, but we were also disturbed. Why? Because we realized that humans do not see war the way we do. For most species, war is about honor, courage, proving your strength. For humans, war is simply a problem that needs to be solved, and they will use any method necessary to solve it. Zeftar looked out at the dark sky above the colony. That night I could not sleep. I kept thinking about the Vraxian soldiers we had captured. The fear in their eyes, They looked at the human soldiers like they were looking at monsters. Were they wrong? The alien turned back to Maya. That is what I have been trying to understand for 23 years, he said. Whether they were wrong, or whether they saw something the rest of us missed. He walked away into the darkness, leaving Maya alone with her thoughts and her growing understanding that she was documenting something far more significant than simple war stories. Back in her small apartment, Maya reviewed her notes. The picture that was emerging was troubling. Humans approached warfare with the same systematic thinking they applied to science and engineering. They studied their enemies like researchers studying specimens. They used psychology as a weapon. They ignored traditional rules and honor codes in favor of pure effectiveness. She wondered what Zeftar would reveal tomorrow. If this was just the beginning of his story, what horrors lay ahead in parts 3 and 4 of his testimony? Maya fell asleep that night with questions swirling in her mind. Questions that would soon have answers she was not sure she wanted to hear. Maya arrived at the cantina early the next evening. She had spent the day reviewing her notes and researching the battles Zeftar had mentioned. The official records told a different story than what the alien warrior was revealing. They spoke of brilliant victories and innovative tactics, but they did not mention the psychological cost on both sides. Zeftar was already there when she arrived, sitting at the same corner table. He looked older today, more tired. His yellow eyes were dull and his scales seemed to have lost some of their shine. Maya wondered if talking about these memories was taking a toll on him. "Are you ready to continue?" she asked as she sat down. The alien nodded slowly. "Today I will tell you about the war that changed everything," he said. The conflict with the Hive Collective. Maya had read about the Hive Wars in school. Every child in the galaxy learned about the insectoid species that had tried to consume entire star systems. The war had lasted 3 years and nearly destroyed several civilizations before the collective was finally stopped. "I was a senior commander by then," Zeftar continued. "I had been fighting alongside humans for over a decade. I thought I understood them. I was wrong." He ordered a stronger drink this time, something that glowed faintly blue in the dim light. The Hive Collective was different from any enemy we had faced before. They did not negotiate. They did not take prisoners. They did not even communicate with us. They simply consumed everything in their path. "How were they stopped?" Zeftar was quiet for a long moment. "By humans doing something that still haunts me," he said finally. "Something that made me realize I had never truly understood what your species is capable of." The alien warrior began to tell his story. Maya listened in growing horror as he described the final phase of the war, when conventional forces had failed to stop the Hive advance. The insectoid creatures had overrun system after system, their numbers growing with each planet they consumed. "We were stationed at Omega Station," Zeftar said. "It was our last line of defense. If the Hive took Omega, they would have a clear path to the core worlds. Billions of civilians would die." Maya knew about Omega Station. It was considered one of the greatest last stands in galactic history. The official record said it was a heroic victory against impossible odds. General Marcus Stone was in command of the human forces. Zeftar continued. He was different from the other human officers I had known. Quieter, more serious. He had been fighting the Hive longer than anyone. What made him different? He understood them, the alien said. Not just their tactics or their technology, but their nature. He knew that the Hive could not be defeated with normal methods. They were too many, too determined, too willing to sacrifice everything for victory. Zeftar drank deeply before continuing. 3 days before the final battle, Stone called a meeting with all senior officers. He told us about something called Protocol Scorched Earth. Maya felt her blood turn cold. What was that? A plan that no other species would ever consider, Zeftar said. Stone had realized that the only way to stop the Hive was to make victory too costly for them. Even if they won the battle, they would lose more than they gained. The alien's voice became strained. He asked for volunteers, humans who would be willing to make the ultimate sacrifice, not just to die in battle, but to weaponize their own deaths. Maya stared at him, What do you mean? The humans had developed new technology, Zeftar explained. Modifications to their combat suits that would turn each soldier into a living bomb. Not just explosives, but biological weapons designed specifically to harm the hive creatures. The alien warrior's hands shook slightly as he continued. Stone explained that volunteers would be given these modifications. They would fight normally until they were mortally wounded. Then they would activate the weapons, destroying themselves and everything around them. That is suicide, Maya whispered. Was worse than suicide, Zeftar said. It was calculated self-destruction designed to cause maximum damage to the enemy, and the horrifying part was how many humans volunteered. Maya felt sick. How many? Almost everyone, the alien said. Out of 8,000 human soldiers, over 7,000 volunteered for the protocol. They lined up to sign the papers. They joked about it. They acted like it was just another mission. Zeftar stared at his drink. I could not understand. These were the same humans who showed me pictures of their families, who worried about their pets, who played silly games and argued about music, and they were volunteering to die in the most horrible way possible. What did you do? I tried to talk them out of it, the alien said. I spoke to soldiers I had fought beside for years. I begged them to reconsider. Do you know what they told me? Maya shook her head. They said it was simple mathematics, Zeftar continued. If they died normally, the hive would just step over their bodies and keep advancing. But if they used the protocol, each death would cost the enemy hundreds of creatures. It would slow them down, maybe even stop them. The alien's voice cracked slightly. They talked about it like they were solving a problem, like their own lives were just numbers in an equation. Maya realized she was holding her breath. Did they use the protocol? The battle lasted 18 hours, Zeftar said. The hive came in waves that seemed endless. For the first few hours we fought normally, but as our forces were overwhelmed, the humans began to activate the protocol. The alien warrior closed his eyes. I watched Sergeant Kelly Brooks take a direct hit from a hive warrior. She was dying, her suit torn open, blood everywhere. Instead of calling for help, she smiled at me and said goodbye. Then she activated her weapon. What happened? The explosion killed everything in a 50-meter radius, Zeftar said, but it also released a cloud of engineered toxins that spread for kilometers. Thousands of hive creatures died in agony. The survivors became confused, disoriented. They started attacking each other. Maya felt tears running down her cheeks. How many humans died this way? Over 4,000, the alien said. 4,000 humans turned themselves into weapons. They died knowing they would never see their families again. They died knowing they would be remembered as monsters by some species. But they also died knowing they had saved billions of lives. Zeftar opened his eyes and looked directly at Maya. That is when I realized what humans really are, he said. You are not just another warrior species. You are something entirely different. You are predators who chose to be protectors. The cantina fell silent except for the hum of machinery. Maya struggled to process what she had heard. The official records had mentioned heavy casualties at Omega Station, but they had never explained how those casualties occurred. The Hive Collective retreated after Omega, Zeftar continued. They had won the battle, but at such a cost that they could not continue the war. The protocol had worked exactly as the humans planned. How did the other species react when they learned about this? The alien warrior was quiet for a long time. Most were grateful, he said finally. The humans had saved the galaxy, but some were horrified. They said humans had crossed a line that should never be crossed. They said we had allied ourselves with monsters. What did you think? Zeftar finished his drink and set the glass down, carefully. I thought they were both right, he said. The humans who died at Omega Station were heroes. They saved more lives than any soldiers in galactic history. But they were also something terrifying. They were creatures who could calculate the value of their own lives and choose to spend them like currency. Maya realized that her hands were shaking. Is that why you stopped talking about the war? Partly, the alien said. But there is more. Tomorrow I will tell you about the conversation that truly changed how I see humans. The conversation that made me understand that everything we witnessed in the wars was just humans holding back. He stood up slowly, his movements careful and deliberate. Tonight, think about what I have told you. Think about what it means to be allied with a species that views their own lives as tactical resources. Tomorrow, I will tell you what they are really capable of when they stop holding back. Maya watched him leave, her mind reeling from what she had learned. She had come here expecting to hear war stories. Instead, she was documenting the moment when the galaxy realized it had been sharing space with something unprecedented, something that could be both humanity's greatest strength and its most terrifying aspect. As she walked back to her apartment, Maya found herself looking at the human colonists around her with new eyes. These ordinary people, going about their daily lives, carried within them the same capacity for calculated sacrifice that had saved the galaxy at Omega Station. The thought was both comforting and deeply unsettling. Maya had barely slept. Her dreams were filled with images of human soldiers turning themselves into weapons, of calculated sacrifice and mathematical death. She arrived at the cantina early, hoping to organize her thoughts before the final part of Zeftar's testimony. The alien warrior was already there, but he looked different. His posture was straighter, his eyes more focused. It was as if telling his story had lifted some invisible weight from his shoulders. He ordered water instead of alcohol, and Maya noticed his hands were steady for the first time in 3 days. "You look better today," Maya observed as she sat down. "Telling the truth has that effect," Zeftar replied. "For 15 years I have carried these memories alone. It feels strange to share them." Maya activated her recording device. "You mentioned a conversation yesterday, something that made you realize humans were holding back." The alien nodded. 2 weeks after the battle at Omega Station, I was in the medical bay recovering from injuries. Lieutenant Commander Ben Garcia was in the bed next to mine. He had been one of General Stone's advisors during the protocol planning. Zeftar paused, collecting his thoughts. Garcia was young for a human military officer, maybe 30 years old. He had a wife and 2 children back on Earth. During our time in the medical bay, we talked about many things. The war, our families, our hopes for peace. What made this conversation different? I asked him a question that had been bothering me, the alien said. I wanted to know how humans could make such sacrifices so easily, how they could volunteer to die in such numbers without hesitation. Maya leaned forward. "What did he tell you?" At first, he gave me the same answers I had heard before: duty, honor, protecting innocent lives. But then I pressed him further. I told him that no other species could do what humans had done at Omega Station. I said it was not natural. Zeftar's yellow eyes grew distant. That is when Garcia laughed. Not a happy laugh, but a bitter one. He said something that still gives me nightmares. What did he say? He said, "You think what we did at Omega was extreme? You have no idea what humans are really capable of. We have been trying very hard not to scare our allies." Maya felt a chill run down her spine. What did he mean? I asked him the same question, Zeftar said. Garcia was quiet for a long time. Then he told me about something called human history, about wars that happened on Earth before humans reached the stars. The alien warrior's voice grew quieter. He told me about conflicts where humans fought other humans, wars that lasted for years, sometimes decades, battles where millions died, weapons that could destroy entire cities in seconds. Maya knew about human history, but she had never thought about it from an alien perspective. That disturbs you? It terrified me, Zeftar said. Garcia explained that humans had been fighting wars for thousands of years before they met other species. They had developed weapons and tactics that made our galactic conflicts look like children playing games. The alien drank from his water glass. But that was not the worst part. The worst part was when he told me that humans had deliberately limited themselves during the galactic wars. Limited themselves how? They had agreed among themselves to use only basic weapons and tactics when fighting alongside alien allies, Zeftar explained. They did not want to frighten the other species. They did not want to be seen as monsters. Maya stared at him. You mean the tactics you described, the psychological warfare, the protocol at Omega Station? That was them holding back? According to Garcia, yes, the alien said. He told me that human military leaders had long debates about how much of their true capability to reveal. They decided to use only methods that other species could understand and accept. Zeftar leaned back in his chair. Garcia said that if humans had used their full knowledge of warfare from the beginning, the Centauri conflict would have lasted days instead of months. The Hive War would have been over in weeks. Maya felt her mouth go dry. Why did he tell you this? I think he was tired of pretending, the alien said. Tired of watching his people be seen as either heroes or monsters when the truth was more complicated. He wanted someone to understand that humans were not naturally violent. They had simply learned to be very good at violence when it was necessary. The alien warrior continued. Garcia explained that human children learn about war in school, not just the glory and the heroism, but the real cost, the suffering, the difficult choices. He said humans understand war better than any species in the galaxy because they have been fighting it longer. Did he give you specific examples? Zeftar nodded grimly. He told me about weapons that humans could build but chose not to, strategies they could use but held back from, methods of psychological warfare that would break enemy minds completely. The alien paused. He said that during the Hive War, human scientists had developed biological weapons that could have wiped out the entire collective in months, but they chose not to use them because it would have been genocide. Maya realized she was holding her breath again. What else did he tell you? He explained that humans had learned something that other species had not, Zeftar said. They had learned that the goal of war should not be to destroy your enemy, but to make them stop fighting. Everything humans do in battle is designed to end the conflict as quickly as possible with the least total suffering. The alien's eyes met Maya's. That is why human tactics seem so strange to other species. We fight to prove our strength or our honor. Humans fight to solve a problem. They will use any method that works, but they will also stop the moment the problem is solved. Is that supposed to be comforting? Zeftar was quiet for a long moment. Garcia asked me the same question. He wanted to know if I felt better or worse knowing that humans were holding back. I told him I was not sure. The alien finished his water and set the glass down carefully. Over the years, I have decided that it is both comforting and terrifying. Comforting because it means humans are not the monsters some species think they are. They choose restraint even when they could choose overwhelming force. And terrifying because it means that everything we witnessed in 3 major wars was just a small sample of what humans can do, Zeftar said. The galaxy thinks it knows about human warfare because we have fought beside them, but we have only seen them when they were being careful not to frighten us. Maya looked around the cantina at the human miners and workers going about their evening routines. They looked so ordinary, so peaceful. It was hard to imagine them as descendants of the warriors Zeftar was describing. What do you think the galaxy should do with this information? She asked. Zeftar considered the question carefully. I think the galaxy should be grateful, he said finally. Grateful that when humans reached the stars, they chose to be protectors instead of conquerors. Grateful that they limit themselves out of respect for other species. The alien stood up slowly. But I also think the galaxy should remember that this choice is exactly that, a choice. Humans could decide differently if they were pushed too far or threatened too greatly. He walked toward the door, then turned back to Maya. In my language, we have a phrase that translates roughly to sleeping giant. It refers to something that appears peaceful, but contains great power. After 30 years of fighting alongside humans, I believe that is what they are. A sleeping giant. A species with the power to reshape the galaxy through force, but the wisdom to choose peace instead, Zeftar said. The question is whether the rest of the galaxy is wise enough to let them keep sleeping. With that, the alien warrior left the cantina for the final time. Maya sat alone for hours, reviewing her notes and thinking about what she had learned. She had come here looking for war stories, but she had discovered something much more significant. She had documented the moment when one alien veteran tried to explain to the galaxy that their human allies were not what they seemed. that beneath the surface of every smiling, joke-telling, picture-sharing human soldier was a capacity for calculated violence that exceeded anything the galaxy had ever seen. Maya wondered if she should publish this story. The truth about human capability could change everything. It could make other species more respectful of humanity, or it could make them more afraid. Either way, the galaxy would never look at humans the same way again. As she walked back to her apartment, Maya made her decision. The truth, no matter how uncomfortable, deserved to be told. The galaxy had a right to know what kind of species they shared space with, and perhaps, if they understood humans better, they would appreciate the gift of restraint that humanity gave them every single day.